Welcome back once again, everybody. September 15th, 2023, and we are looking at the latest satellite imagery of not just Hurricane Lee, but also now Tropical Storm Margot up in the Northeast Atlantic, as well as Invest 97, soon to be Hurricane Nigel. Or I should say Tropical Storm Nigel first, and then chances are it will move to hurricane status. And we will have plenty of time to talk about Nigel in the coming days, but right now, we are just 24 hours away from a landfall of possible Hurricane Lee. Now, we got to check this thing out because, as expected, the wind field is widening significantly as this thing gets into cooler waters and the barometric pressure lowers. Now, what that means is Lee is getting weaker on its approach to the northeast of the United States, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Now, as we take a look at the timeline of Lee, as we said, we are about 24 hours away from possible landfall. You can see the 2 p.m. on Saturday date shown right here, and within the cone of uncertainty, if we move from left to right, we can see this entire area all the way from Rhode Island, following the landline all the way through Maine, New Brunswick, the port of Fundy, and then most, if not all, the coastline of Nova Scotia. Landfall could be anywhere from Cutler, Maine to St. Andrews in New Brunswick. We've got the bay right here, and then we have areas like Yarmouth, Rockville, Charlesville, and Clark's Harbor, all within the pink color here, which is a hurricane watch. Now, what I want to do here is show you what each model is showing as far as where the eye of this storm is going to make landfall. Right now, this is the European model. We can move this cursor forward, and what we see is the eye more or less going straight into the Bay of Fundy. Now, this bay happens to have the most dramatic tide changes that we know about. So any extra water being forced into this area or even pulled back out once it goes back in will in turn cause extra flooding in these inlets and basically anything on the shorelines going into this bay. Just to show you very quickly, here we are on Google Earth. We're going to zoom right into this bay and the area in which this will more than likely make landfall. Anywhere from Yarmouth into the bay itself, St. Andrews, Bar Harbor, Maine. And as we said earlier, just this most eastern tip of Maine is in the cone of uncertainty right now. So anywhere from where my cursor is now, all the way through Yarmouth and the entire eastern edge of Nova Scotia. Now, because of the way the bay is laid out, if we zoom back in a little bit, all these areas here, Grandman and Church Point, and this entire inlet right here, we've got St. John very close to the shoreline here, all the way through Alma, and then Berwick, Greenwood, and Middleton, so on and so forth. This entire bay is at risk of severe flooding. Here is the GFS version, a little bit behind the European model, but again, just entering the bay, possibly clipping that part of Nova Scotia. We'll go one more frame here, and you can see it almost turns into the bay, which is very interesting. Back that out and show you one more time, clipping the western edge of Nova Scotia and right into the bay. And finally, the Canadian model, almost lined up with the GFS, we could see a little more of a landfall on the entire southern half of Nova Scotia, so a little bit towards the east, farther into the Atlantic Ocean, as it makes this northern approach throughout tomorrow and Sunday. Landfall's right there, and then we also have a turn into the bay as far as the CMC. Now, very quickly, I want to discuss what is now Tropical Depression 15. It has been upgraded from the Invest 97L we spoke about in the beginning of the video, but you can see right here, by the time we reach early Sunday into Sunday night, this thing will transfer into a hurricane, and then a Monday into Tuesday, we could be looking at a major hurricane as this thing tracks across the Atlantic towards the east coast of the US once again. Taking a look quickly at how Tropical Depression 15 is going to transfer into a hurricane and then a major hurricane, we could see many of these plots bring this thing way up to Category 3, possibly a 4, between the next 3 and 5 days. Again, we may see rapid intensification with this storm as well, just like Lee. Very interesting set of spaghetti plots here. They are beginning to track towards the western Atlantic or the east coast of the US and Canada. One track even brings this thing exactly where Lee is going right now. So something we need to watch in the coming days. And as we track this depression, what we're looking for is the beginning of a counterclockwise spin. You could see that underneath these yellow and orange clouds. We have the blue and green underneath, hooking all the way down from this direction. You can see that counterclockwise beginning to form underneath. And as a result, we see the bigger storms bubbling up on the edges of this storm, which are all major signs of a future hurricane. This thing is already breathing and looking healthy, and it's got nothing but warm water ahead of it to fuel itself. One thing I can't stress enough is to keep an eye on your local weather, specifically those in the northeast of the US and Atlantic Canada. Even as little as 1 to 3 feet of storm surge can close roads, move cars, cars and cause people to be stuck in their homes if they chose to ride this one out, as Lee has dropped into that Category 1 speed. I tried keeping this one a little short for you guys today. I'm going to be putting more updates on Twitter and or Instagram, and as we get closer to landfall, I will post another video, especially if we have any changes as far as where landfall is going to take place. But again, the most eastern tip of Maine, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia are in the crosshairs of this storm within the next 24 hours, with the bands of this storm already affecting Long Island and Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine itself, and skimming the eastern edges of New York and New Jersey. My friends, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. If you are in any of these areas within the US and or Canada, Atlantic Canada to be more specific, please keep a constant eye on this storm. Just because it's a Category 1 right now or even a tropical storm upon landfall, you do not want to get complacent about the fact that it's not a major hurricane and it still can be very dangerous and deadly. Keep that in mind going forward. Shout out to Canada. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.